The aspect of their judgment I had in mind was most clearly stated in the Manfred Brunner case, with Maastricht a long time ago, which is the aspect where they said that if the European institutions interpret their powers in a way which falls outside, in our view, on view of this court, falls outside the scope of the powers conferred on them by the treaty, we, this court, will intervene, and the resulting measures will not have effect within the zone of German sovereignty. So it was the ultimate, I think, competence that I had in mind in that context. I agree, under the German constitution, in general, European Union measures will prevail over domestic measures. So,
thank you very much, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask Richard Simmons, who is the chairman of the EPP, to say a few words. We're very grateful, Richard, to you and the University College. Then I'll ask each of our speakers to close formally, and then we should close the meeting. Richard Simmons, please.
Thank you, Sheila. On behalf of the BPP University College, first I'd like to thank you, Sheila, for organising this meeting, and to thank Martin and Jacob for giving such a fascinating and interesting account of the reasons for this legislation and the limitations of it. And it's been a pleasure for us to sponsor today's event.
Thank you very much, Richard. Jacob, would you like to conclude formally first, and then Martin, we reverse the order.
Certainly, thank you. Shall I do it from here rather than from the podium? Thank you. I think the bill is broadly welcome. I think it is not perfect. It's not what I hoped we would have got out of a majority Conservative government. But I'm quite encouraged that we got a sovereignty clause at all out of a coalition government. I don't think the Liberals would have thought they'd be signing up to that in May. I think the referendum lock is going to be beneficial, again, even if imperfect, because of the political capital that an incoming government would have to give up. And there were certainly reports of Tony Blair's fury when John Major promised the referendum on the euro, because at that point he knew it was going to be much, much harder to get the euro imposed on the UK, which otherwise he'd intended to do. I mean, this is a long time ago and was gossip at the time, so it's actually right, heaven knows. But I think it's likely to be the view of the pro-Europeans, the remaining pro-Europeans in the UK, that this will stop further steps to integration because the political cost will be too high. However, any amendments we can get through that toughen it up, that protect it, and getting it out of the Parliament Act would be part of that, I think would be welcome and would be a very good show of faith on the government's part to indicate that it wants to make this really effective rather than is doing it because it's got to throw a little bit of red meat to the right of the coalition, having thrown quite a lot of lentils at the left of the coalition.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Well, thank you again, Sheila. I mean, to wrap up, I mean, I agree, fully agree with Jacob's view. I think this bill is very much to be welcomed. It is a major step forward, and there are matters where I don't want to sound carping or quibbling. There are matters where improvements could be made, which we've covered. What the bill, of course, doesn't address is wider and more fundamental questions to do with our continuing relationship with the European Union, which in a way, I think political reality indicates will probably be stalled for the duration of the current Parliament because of the Lib Dem element in the coalition, and generally being pro-integrationists. They're not going to allow even the very limited attempts to repatriate powers that were canvassed in the Conservative election manifesto. However, I think the advantage, if you like, of turning a setback into an opportunity is that it allows time for more careful and fundamental thought about this country's future relationship with the European Union, because I'm certainly in the camp that says, well, it can't go on the way it is indefinitely and forever. We do want to be participants in free trade, both in goods and services, within this large market. But this continual draining of power from this country cannot be allowed to continue. Not only that, we must seek ways of positively reversing it. At the moment, what we're doing is we've stopped going up, but we're still on a moving escalator. We've stopped stepping up further steps on it, and this bill achieves that, or will probably achieve that. But we're still on that moving escalator because measures keep on coming through under existing qualified majority voting powers from the European Union, and those have to be reacted to and dealt with. So the euro crisis, who knows where it will end, but more fundamentally, something will change fundamentally in the structure of the European Union over the next 2 or 3 years, and I think it's important to work out a coherent and positive direction to take, perhaps in the next Parliament.
Martin, thank you very much. I am extremely grateful, first of all, to all of you for coming along and making this such an interesting discussion, and to our sponsor, BPP University College. But above all, I'd like to thank both Martin and Jacob for bringing us through some of the detail which we miss when we turn on the news bulletins, and for Stuart, of course, for drawing out, teasing out further points which needed illumination. We've heard that there is broad agreement for some of the measures which will help restore parliamentary sovereignty. The sovereignty clause itself, the referendum law, and measures to control the European Union measures, and some technical proposals for making them better, which perhaps the House of Commons may try to get included in some form or another as an amendment. But at heart, neither speaker thinks this is a perfect answer to the problem. The referendum lock is not in fact a fast lock, it can be broken, but Jacob and Martin, who has worked tirelessly on this, would put his faith in the sort of parliamentary control people will now choose to exercise over future EU measures. And I think Jacob very wisely drew attention to the fact that many in the House of Commons have lost confidence in governments to treat European measures with the sort of scepticism that they should treat them, and indeed use the powers which they have to deal. So there's a big trust problem for the future. Well, without going into that, I think that what we've heard today is that one of the anomalies which has existed since the 1972 measure, and Martin has been tireless in drawing attention to it, is this bad bill has been flagged up and made public. Parliament from now on will indeed be able to challenge future legislation in a way which some previous parliaments did not believe was possible as a result of what had happened before. So that is very good, and it opens this question of judiciary versus parliamentary power. And Martin, I think you are one of the most noble members of your profession for supporting parliamentary power over that of legal interpretations, and thank you for that.
Very rare.
So I think we've been really privileged today to have this discussion, but ladies and gentlemen, the conclusion is that much will depend on the strength of Parliament and the sort of advice it has. So I very much hope that Parliament will be full of people like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who are intelligent, educated and sophisticated in going beyond the headlines, and would be a credit to any European institution. And thank you very much, Jacob. I wish you a very successful career in the House of Commons. And also to Martin Howe, both of whom have the integrity which, as well as the brains and knowledge, which could turn this country round in the right way. So thank you both very much indeed.